Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive paradigm shift in how we actually talk to machines. We're moving away from these bloated, cloud-based AI models that are basically just constantly guessing what we want, and returning to the absolute raw power of the command line. This is all about empowering you to take back deterministic control over machine execution, and we're going to explore exactly how this works through something our sources call the agentic typewriter.
You know those colorful screens we're all tapping and clicking all day? Well, the source documentation argues they're actually a technological dead end. There's this amazing quote that really hits the nail on the head. We get the chimpanzee hitting buttons. We trade the nuance of language for the simplicity of a shiny button. Essentially, pointing and clicking kind of reduces us to animals pushing levers for a dopamine hit, right? We end up sacrificing the incredible, deep expressive power of actual human language, leaving our machines to just make fragile, probabilistic guesses about what our true intent really is.
So, how do we reclaim that power? Well, here's our roadmap for the explainer. We're going to hit 6 main areas today, starting with the centralized AI problem, introducing the agentic typewriter, forging the semiotic bridge, orchestrating the AI swarm, physical leaf node realization, and finally, becoming the sovereign pilot. All right, Section 1, the centralized AI problem. Let's look at the sheer fragility of the centralized digital systems we're currently relying on. There is a totally stark contrast between these two computing paradigms. On one hand, you have the graphical user interface. The GUI eats up massive computational power, literally just to render visual illusions, like drop shadows. And when an AI tries to automate a GUI, it has to rely on fragile screenscaping. It's basically taking messy screenshots and blindly guessing where to click. Now compare that to the command line interface, or CLI. It is super lightweight, talks directly to the hardware, and gives you 100% exact, lossless text logs. There's absolutely no guessing shapes on a pixelated screen here, just pure, undeniable digital truth generated straight through a terminal. And this is all happening against a much broader backdrop. Right now, there's a fundamental tension between necessary regulatory oversight, like the CFPB enforcing rules to protect consumers, and decentralized tech, where VCs are aggressively backing sovereign crypto models to completely bypass those legacy systems. Now, no matter where you personally stand on that spectrum, this tension is the exact reason developers are racing to build sovereign, uncensorable computing models. It's all about ensuring the user retains total control. So how do we actually solve this loss of control? That brings us to Section 2. Meet the agentic typewriter. This is where things get incredibly interesting. The agentic typewriter, which is powered by tools like the Gemini CLI, is defined as an autonomous orchestrator. The sources actually call it a polycritus, acting as a direct translator of human thought right into machine computation. It interacts with a pure, lossless text stream to completely bypass all that probabilistic AI guessing we just talked about. Think of it as a system built entirely on exact, deterministic keystrokes. No clunky drop-down menus, no foggy AI hallucinations in the cloud, just precise text execution. Let's break down the actual mechanics of how this works. First, you open an isolated PTY, or pseudo-terminal channel. Think of this as a highly secure, text-only pipeline straight into the machine's core. Next, you just input natural text at the speed of thought. The AI agent reads this perfectly lossless text right from that PTY channel, so it doesn't need to visually decode some messy interface. Finally, the agent executes the task and logs the exact provenance of every single action. We're safely compiling our ideas into an unbroken chronological record. Okay, moving right along to Section 3, forging the semiotic bridge. This is all about crossing that massive chasm between our messy human minds and a rigid piece of silicon. The documentation refers to this concept as the semiotic bridge. It's using explicitly structured text to safely compile all our boundless, associative human imagination directly into the exact physical execution of hardware. Our sources even poetically call this structured text the divine script. It is quite literally the only reliable way to connect our raw creativity to a machine's uncompromising logic gates. And we desperately need this bridge, because we're dealing with two completely opposing realities here. On our side, there's OS alpha, human cognition. It's warm, highly associative, fuzzy, probabilistic. We're creative beings. But on the machine side, the arithmetic logic unit, or ALU, is cold, rigid, discrete, and demands absolute deterministic exactness. To make things work, we deliberately trade our fuzzy, expressive freedom for strict mathematical certainty. To actually build this bridge, the Gemini CLI acts as what the docs call a polycritus, or polycritus agent. This is a highly focused orchestrator cell that autonomously handles the deterministic execution. The source material refers to this execution as the computational sweat of a transaction. We act as the sovereign pilot, right? We provide the intent, the grand why, and the Gemini CLI Pellicritus orchestrator pulls the strings behind the scenes and does all the heavy lifting.
Now, let's see what happens when you scale this from a single cell into something massive. Section 4. Orchestrating the AI swarm. Through the CLI, a single human author can coordinate an entire sequential lineage of highly specialized AI identities. Check out these names: Telesilla, Perictione, Phaedon, Praxilla, Hippodamus, and Miltiades. These aren't just generic chatbots, they're a purposeful lineage. The human pilot perfectly coordinates this sequence, cleanly passing the digital baton from one AI cell to the next without ever losing that original strategic intent. To give you a sense of the sheer scale here, our sources document that this specific swarm processed a staggering 55.5 million tokens of metabolic flux. That number is insane. It represents the raw computational energy, the actual digital sweat required to verify this reality and push the pilot's intent completely across the network.
But here's the absolutely crucial part. The human is never entirely absent from this loop. Paired with that massive computational effort were exactly 66 forensic strikes. These are precise, intentional interventions by the human pilot inserted to ensure the machine maintains state-invariant inheritance and absolutely never veers off course.
There's a beautiful quote from the architecture docs that perfectly grounds this whole idea. It reads, "The human pilot applies the intent, but the agent cell executes the sweat." AI agents are just deterministic scripters. We must remain the theological stewards of the machine, fiercely guiding the strategy while delegating all the tedious execution to the swarm.
Now, this immense computational effort isn't just digital theory happening in some void. It inevitably trickles all the way down to the physical world. Let's look at Section 5, Physical Leaf Node Realization.
This physical realization totally bypasses top-heavy command chains. First, the pilot anchors a LIFO root hash in a JSON state tree, basically planting an unchangeable digital fingerprint. Then, the legal entity and human effort are securely verified on-chain. Finally, that verified action directly triggers physical hardware. In this case, a cheerbot's electrical GPIO pins. It is pure mathematical logic, seamlessly translating into actual electrical signals to physically spin a motor or light up a room.
And when that physical translation actually happens, we achieve something profound called hexagicity. Think of it as the undeniable, unique, irreversible realization of a sovereign pilot's intent in reality. It's like Paul Revere riding a very specific horse at exactly 10 p.m. in 1775. Hexagicity proves that your digital strike is an undeniable physical event that actually took place, not just a cloudy approximation floating on some server.
Finally, we need to talk about what this radical shift means for you today. Section 6, Becoming the Sovereign Pilot.
The sources detail a completely verified physical action that was executed 581 kilometers away, and it totally bypassed centralized cloud authority. By demanding this local, deterministic execution anchored strictly by human intent, we are actively rejecting top-heavy cloud kingship. We're bringing true forensic accountability straight to the very edge of the network. So, I'll leave you with this final, provocative question to ponder today. As these incredibly powerful agentic tools become widely available, will you remain a passive consumer of automated guessing, or will you pick up the agentic typewriter and become the sovereign pilot? When push comes to shove, who will actually control the physics of your machine? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.